KBLA Talk 1580. Perfect rock-on music for my next guest. He represents the 41st Assembly District. He's got a lifetime of experience in public service and business, garnered during his many years in the Pasadena City Council, the Burbank-Glendale-Pasadena Airport Authority, first elected to the California State Assembly back in 2012, overwhelmingly reelected in 2014, 2016, 2018, and 2020 in a district that goes from Pasadena in the west to Upland in the east and includes Altadena, Monrovia, Claremont, San Dimas, Verne, La Canada, Flintridge, Sierra Madre, and more. Assemblymember Chris Holden, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. You can see us on the YouTubes, youtube.com, KBLA 1580. So, Appropriations Committee is why we chose that song on a Wealth Building Wednesday. For those not as familiar, what does Appropriations Committee do? What do you all do on that committee?
Well, it's our responsibility to evaluate all of the legislation that is presented during the course of a year, and we make a determination on how that fits with the budget, if we can afford the program, if you will, and to ensure that we can move something forward that has a good policy perspective, but also at the same time that the state can afford to do the programs. And sometimes it pushes it a little bit because they're very important initiatives that members are writing legislation around, and we want to make sure that the good stuff keeps moving. And sometimes we can look at the governor to make a final decision on whether or not he wants to find other ways to make things come together. But that's our job to do the balancing.
I mean, because it always comes down to budget, right? We have good ideas, but whether or not they're funded adds up to whether or not they really move.
That's correct. I mean, and look, in this state, we try to do a lot of good things to cover a lot of important areas, and certainly as we try to find the economic balance, especially in a year where we were a little bit upside down in terms of the revenue coming into the state. This is still an important state to try new things and to try to meet the needs of the people where we best can and do it in a cutting-edge way.
I feel like people forget how big this state is. I mean, it's really like running a country.
It's the fourth largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at trying to balance the needs of so many people, such diverse communities and regions of the state, it becomes very important that we recognize the current needs as well as try to project to the future and invest, whether it's investing in education or what we need to do around fighting climate change.
Okay, so just to put it in perspective, there are 195 countries in the world. California, if it was a country, would be number 4.
Number 4.
That's amazing. So, you've been in this job for a minute, and your district really is, quite varied. I think many of us don't dream up or imagine African Americans when we think of Pasadena, maybe more Altadena, but La Cañada, Flintridge, and such. And with all of the attacks on black elected officials and the concern that our voting power may be diminished or our representation may be diminished, I'd love to get your perspective on what it's like to be elected and serve in such a varied district.
Well, first of all, it's the area that I grew up in. And so from that vantage point, I had the opportunity to really understand and appreciate the connective ties. The African American community of Pasadena, Altadena has been long-standing. I was elected in 1989, but I preceded the first I followed the first African American who was elected, but also served as mayor of Pasadena, Loretta Thompson Glickman. And in those days, the areas that I grew up in were like 80% African American that then blended into Altadena. These communities have since dissipated over time. My ability to be able to be elected and represent is because I connect to the issues that are very important to the region. And I think with that in mind, it really is about taking care of community, taking care of people, providing and filling the needs where they are. And whether it's preserving neighborhoods or increasing development for communities that don't have supermarkets, it's been my approach over time to basically address those issues.
The food deserts, right?
The food deserts. I remember when we had redevelopment, we were able to use it very effectively, and to bring in resources. We partnered with Danny Bakewell as a developer to bring in a Vaughn supermarket, which was a huge transition for our community. Transportation to link people to light rail that we were bringing into the area. So it was one of those situations where when you grow up, you see an environment and you recognize where change needs to happen, eliminating liquor stores and bringing in affordable housing, that type of thing.
And your state of the district, obviously, this is, the purpose of this is to sort of get us up to date on all of these things, right?
That's right. And it's changed over the years. When I was first elected in 1989, and I followed my dad, Nate Holden, into politics, so I got to see, and come to this community of central Los Angeles and really see his leadership and how you can make a transformative difference, but you sometimes have to push real hard against the establishment that is really looking to take resources and move it in other places. I've had the opportunity to be able to work with the community to bring in affordable housing, to bring in transportation, to link communities to important resources, and to make sure that we are cleaning up the bad areas and turning those around as well. And I think we've been successful in doing that.
Well, since you brought it up, your father, Nate Holden, big shoes to fill, and I think it's bold that you stepped into the same business. Honestly, I know it does happen. Mm-hmm. As a person myself, my dad and Mary Baraka, a.k.a. Leroy Jones, and my mom, Diana Prima, these big iconic figures. When I was younger, I found that intimidating. It was like, I'll never be a poet. I'm never going to get in that space. I don't want to be compared. People are going to see what I do and say it's trash. After a while, you get over it, I hope. But has that factored for you? Your dad's got a theater named after him on Washington, and who knows how much other stuff. How do those big shoes or that big shadow, how does that figure into you as a lawmaker?
Well, at 6'8", literally, I have bigger shoes.
That's the secret. Grow taller and have literally bigger shoes.
There you go. Yeah. And it's not even an issue anymore. I think for me, I got to the place where I didn't think of myself being in the public sector and serving in this capacity. I just didn't. I played basketball, and I think I did it very well. I attended San Diego State. So when I graduated, I was still thinking about other career paths. I had a business marketing major, and so I was thinking about what that might transition into. My first job was working at Juvenile Hall in East L.A. And
wow.
That's just because I needed a job.
That'll be an eye-opener for sure.
It was an eye-opener, and it put me in a situation where I was in an environment where I was seeing young people who were not that much younger than I was at the time. And I think it was at that moment, I won't call it an epiphany, but it was a sense of connecting to a purpose that allowed me to think about what I could be in terms of service to others. And I think based on understanding what the needs were for these young people, what happened, we were blocking their progress, and what role could I play in being a change agent. And it was at that time I decided to run for the city council. I was 23 at the time. I didn't win that first time around, but I stayed active because I didn't want to be that guy that ran, didn't win, and then disappeared. So I stayed engaged. 4 years later, I ran and won, served for nearly 24 years before I ran for the Assembly.
Mm. And how involved was your dad?
Well, first of all, the first thing he said when I told him that I was going to run, he said, "Are you crazy? Are you sure?" And I think it's because he understood the game. He understood that what it would take to the obstacles that one would have to encounter, the pushback, the fight, the desire to really fight for change and be consistent and sustain that throughout a career, as it turns out. But when I told him that I was ready for it, committed to it, then he certainly went into full steam to do all he could to make sure I was successful. And at that time, Kenny Hahn, legendary supervisor for LA County, was also very helpful in my understanding how to navigate through the politics of public service. When I lost that race, I remember my dad said, "You didn't lose." And I said, "Well, she got more votes than I did, so it certainly seems like I came up short that that's a loss." But what he was really trying to get me to recognize, which is a very important life lesson, is that you don't necessarily, just because you didn't get what you wanted at the time that you were trying to pursue it, doesn't mean that you lost. You learn something in the process, and in that process, you gain wisdom, you gain insight and experience, and that was valuable. And Kenny Hahn, I remember saying to me at that time, and just remember, it's not where you serve, it's how you serve. And so it kept me in a place of connecting to the service part. I was appointed to a variety of commissions. I served in a very numbers of roles during that period of time. Redevelopment, I learned a lot about redevelopment in the process. Working with community, rebuilding after urban renewal tore down good portions of the black community, how we would turn and create a vision for our community that we had control over. I learned a lot, and 4 years later I was elected, and
you've been in office ever since.
In office ever since.
Yeah, I want to find out about some of the legislative accomplishments and priorities, get your take on a few of the controversies, particularly over there in Pasadena, and also what's next? Where are you going next? All that's coming up on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time-to-talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
She's so smooth, I'm interrupting my own shower to remind you to treat your skin like the queen she is with Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, packed with Olay's highest level of vitamin B3 complex. It's so moisturizing that it will give you visibly smoother, head-turning skin in just 14 days. People wondering, how'd she get so smooth? Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash. Also, try Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And 41st Assembly member, Representative Chris Holden, is joining us this morning. And I know you've done a lot of things. You've been in that seat since 2012.
Mm-hmm.
What are you most proud of?
Wow, that's that's like choosing between your kids, which one you love the most. I would say though that what I feel is probably one of the more transformative legislative accomplishments is the expansion of dual enrollment. We have always had some form of allowing high school students to take college-level courses while in high school, but those were pretty much AP students who were looking to start building their curriculum experience in high school for college. By expanding it, we added more credits. We allowed for the program to be extended in such a way that you could take it at an earlier age. So a ninth grader conceivably could start taking college-level courses, and that as a senior, they could graduate with their AA degree as well as their high school diploma. The beauty of that is that it puts them in a position, those who are college-focused and looking to build their resume going forward, it puts them in a position to enter college as a first-year junior. Now, for parents, that's a big deal because certainly you're saving a lot in terms of cost of education. But for the young person, they are looking at, and these could be first-time students who are looking at going to college the first in their family, and sometimes there's a stigma that builds up that, can I do the work? Can I, is this for me? No one else in my family has been able to be successful in this path, but being able to take these college courses while in high school builds up their self-esteem, puts them in a strong position that allows them to be able to be college-bound and to maybe have a shortened period of time while they're there.
Do you think that is this part of a move towards making college more widely available? I mean, I think California has made some steps toward free college for all, that, at least community college for all, right, that I would like to see implemented nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
Is that are those part of the building blocks of that, do you think?
They are. They kind of they all go hand in hand. I think it really creates a platform for education to be made excellent in a young person's mind, and that they can see that this is a pathway to success, and to certainly put themselves in a position to explore subject matters that they not had access to previously, and possibly even careers that they never thought that they might be able to compete for. We've also looked at, during this period of time, how we can generate and when I say we, now I'm putting on my hat as a member of the California Legislative Black Caucus. And one of the things that we've been able to do, which again I think is very transformative and sort of ties into dual enrollment, is to get additional monies that will be a part of the budget going forward, $300 million, that will address the needs of African American students or lowest performing students in schools, that give them an opportunity like other young people who may fall into categories of English as a second language or foster youth, where the local control funding formula provides these additional resources to help them get them a leg up. For young people who are coming from families that might not have that same kind of resource opportunity, we see this as a way of working hand in hand to catch them early, give them a leg up, put them on the track towards college, and then have a dual enrollment curriculum that gives them an opportunity to see success while they're in high school.
I mean, we started out talking about the Appropriations Committee and your role, and figuring out which money goes where, and we get so many things we could fund. I myself was disappointed that the governor did not support the universal, pre-K. Yeah. I was, as a mama, I just feel like, especially when you look at it in terms of impact through an equity lens, yes, right? Because we go Black and Latino too, students, children I am in the middle class, so I, skipped the nail salon and paid for my kid to go to pre-K, but not everybody can do that, right? And I understand it's about priorities, but do you think we'll have an opportunity to see that come back again? How do you see the logic behind that? That was baffling to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we all kind of scratch our head from time to time at how decisions are made, whether they're at policy level or when it lands in the governor's office. But I do believe, as what I mentioned earlier, when my dad said, if you're ready for this game, you've got to be prepared to fight the long fight and to be sustainable.
Right.
And so we need to continue to bring it back. To answer your question, yes, I believe it comes back. I think we look at maybe an opportunity where resources are a little bit more free to include these programs, but it gives these young people a head start, and I think that's what it's all about.
And I know you're not the spokesperson for the governor, but you in the Assembly and the State Senate, you guys work with the governor. You guys make the laws to put on his desk to get him to sign.
Right.
Some of us took the governor's comments around reparations as a backing off. Mm-hmm. And maybe we know he's debating Ron DeSantis, which to me says he's running for governor for president in 2028, maybe, probably not 2024.
Right.
Do you feel like there's a backing off of reparations now, that not just by the governor, but just by lawmakers in general, now that this report has been issued and the recommendations are on the table?
I think that it's becoming very real.
Yeah.
It went from a concept, a committee, a commission, and now recommendations that are real. And I think those recommendations were based on examining the impact of slavery and how that has set back a generation and impacted legacy wealth opportunities for African Americans. And I think that that's the fundamental issue that we're focusing on. The recommendations, like a lot of things, I can tell you that in education, we're doing some wonderful things that address the needs, as I just described, $300 million a year for lowest performing students. It's about trying to now find a way to connect the resources to the priorities that the caucus is going through now, to try to identify that we can put forward and say, here are some transformative, game-changing initiatives, and here are some ways that we think it could be funded, and then present that to the governor as a package. I think it makes it easier to make the sale when you have the fiscal part also addressed. If we just put the ideas in front and then say, now let's just find it wherever it is, that becomes a little bit
ideas without dollars, it's just ideas.
Yeah. But I think it's, and I can't speak for where the governor's motivations are at this moment, but the Black Caucus's motivation is still very high and very excited about what we can pull together, and hopefully it will be something that will make people feel that there was something meaningful that came out of this process.
And I don't mean to say just ideas, because my mom says, the war that matters is the war of the imagination. So if we can't imagine our freedom, if we can't imagine our reparation, then we can't have it. But I'm just saying we need to put our money where our mouth is. And so I think that policy initiatives are good and important, but if what comes out of this Reparations Commission is, okay, we're just going to go with policy initiatives and we're not going to look at dollars, actual checks, reparations money, reparations programs that are creating value, right? Economic impact, whether it's a direct check to you or your kid gets to go to college for free, or your black people get to be free of taxes, whatever that is.
Right.
Actual economic impact. I don't think the job is done.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's certainly part of the conversation that we're going to have going forward. Bruce's Beach is an example of how it turned into some real money for a family, and I think that there's a recognition that we need to look at how we can then translate these recommendations into economic benefit. What that ultimately looks like and how creative we can be, I think that's part of the process that we're engaging in with now.
I mean, to me, Assemblymember Holden, the fact that the state legislature could not pass last year a measure to end forced labor in prisons means the policy path may not be, the way forward. Certainly not the only way forward for reparations.
No, it's not going to be the only way. There are a variety of avenues that we'll be able to look at. And to your point on, segregation of inmates and solitary confinement, is that?
Well, that's one piece, but I'm also talking about, the Sidney Comlager's bill that was meant to, which we've seen pass in other states, which is meant to stop forced labor where you can be forced to work in prison and paid sub-minimum wage. Oh, it's too expensive. Well, then those inmates shouldn't be working because they are human beings, and human beings get the minimum wage.
Right. No, I think that's those are the very points that I think that we're going to be looking at as well, to make sure that there's equity and balance and fairness, to make sure that there's a real impact of the decisions that have been made and recommendations that we have before us. And I think we're going to be able to come up with something that the community is going to have to engage with us on, and I think that we can get to a good outcome.
Yeah, when we come forward, we got news, traffic, and sports in literally 1 minute. When we come forward, I want to hear about your Nelson Mandela bill. I want to hear about what you're doing next, so hopefully you won't be coy and you'll tell us what you're really doing next. And talk about Pasadena. But in this minute, you said the community needs to engage. How much of a difference does it make for you when we are marching or vocal about a bill or issue?
A lot. Then because, when you're a policymaker, then you find yourself in a situation where sometimes you're the only one in a committee room, or you're the only one on the floor making a pitch for a very important initiative that impacts dramatically on your community. And for the community to show up and be a part of that conversation, that means, I remember when Dr. Weber had a bill dealing with changes in policing, folks showed up at the Capitol, sat out in front of Governor Brown's office, and made sure that they were seen and heard.
Yeah, I appreciate your sharing that with us. So, Assemblymember Holden doesn't have to be isolated as the kook in the room when we're over here going, we want this now. News, traffic, and sports, and continuing this conversation on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominic DePrimo when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Biden administration is set to outline plans to prohibit some investments in Chinese technology. The goal is to keep U.S. money from bolstering China's military and other threats to national security. An executive order from President Biden could be issued before the end of the day and could target tech like semiconductors and artificial intelligence. In Louisiana, by order of African-American Mayor LaToya Cantrell, an emergency declaration is in effect in New Orleans in response to the ongoing extreme heat. The mayor made the announcement on Tuesday. New Orleans EMS says there have been 4 times as many heat-related calls this year than in the summer of 2022. The Orleans Parish Coroner has confirmed 6 heat-related deaths this year. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Warning, if you are 60 or older, RSV can be a dangerous respiratory virus.
Not all dangers come with warning labels. Talk to your pharmacist or doctor about getting vaccinated against RSV today. Learn more at bewareofrsv.com. This message is brought to you by Pfizer.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers are 20 games over 500 after hanging on to beat Arizona last night. Mookie Betts was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. The surging Dodgers have a 5-game lead over the Giants in the NL West. Reports have surfaced that the Atlantic Coast Conference is having discussions with Cal and Stanford. No official word yet that Cal and Stanford are heading to the ACC in 2024. The conversations are further proof that the Pac-12 is close to USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington are moving to the Big Ten Conference. The Big 12 is adding Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. As a reminder, if you have a family member being recruited by Pac-12 schools, do your homework to make sure your athlete has all the information to make a decision. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Extreme heat increases your risk of heat illness and death. Warning signs of heat exhaustion include muscle cramps, headache, and nausea. Signs of heat stroke include a fever of 103 or higher, confusion, and loss of consciousness. Protect yourself by limiting time spent outdoors, staying hydrated, and staying cool in air-conditioned spaces. Learn how to stay safer from extreme heat at heatreadyca.com. Brought to you by the state of California.
I'm David Goldberg. a bilingual elementary school teacher, and president of the California Teachers Association. As we start a new school year, there's something new happening in California's public schools. They're called community schools, where families, students, educators, and communities are making decisions as one.
As a parent, I feel like we're really valued as partners in the education system.
Community schools are bridging the systems of academics with the community.
The curriculum is designed around the students and their academic needs.
I know community schools are working. We see it in parent involvement. We see it in student academics.
We saw double-digit gains in math, English, and reading scores.
It's a more innovative, holistic approach to educating students.
I really feel like this is the first time that we're really seeing a system change in our school.
It's innovative, fresh,
and they're already working.
We invite you to learn more about community schools as we come together to reimagine public education here in California. And that's why CTA brought you this message.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice, and injustice. The courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Areva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Areva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Carson, hey, I am Jasmine Carson, LSU Women's Basketball National Champion. I had to up my game, and this time I upped my intimate grooming routine too. Venus for Pubic Hair and Skin is the only razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area. Featuring a razor with a patented irritation defense bar and a skincare regimen that is dermatologist tested, Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Visit GilletteVenus.com to learn more about the full regimen of products.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
And we are talking with Assemblymember Nate Holden, who is over the 41st District. Of course, we talked about, I'm sorry, what did I get wrong? Go ahead.
You said Nate.
I said Nate? Oh, my gosh. I'm so sorry.
It happens all the time.
No, you did tell me that, but the reason I said that is because I'm looking at his picture right now on the computer because I was going to ask you about your father. Mm-hmm. How is he?
He's doing well. He turned 94 in June, and he's still telling me what to do.
Yeah, I don't think that ever ends. I remember my dad was in the hospital telling us what to do before he exited the building. It never ends. I'm very clear that you're not Nate, though, but I was looking at his picture because your dad was in office for a long time.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
I don't know exactly how long, but it was quite a while.
Well, he was 16 years on the city council, and then he served 4 years in the state legislature and the Senate. From 74 to 78, and ran for Congress. When that didn't work out, he went back to work with Kenny Hahn until the city council seat opened up, and he ran for that.
Yeah, and you've been you've been in elected office since.
Well, if you count nearly 24 years in the Pasadena City Council,
we count that,
and then what will be 12 years in the legislature at the end of next year. 36 years.
Wow.
Is what it will be.
And this is your last term in the Assembly.
This is my last term in the Assembly.
What will you do next?
Well, I'm in the process of, I've made the decision, and I am running for the LA County Board of Supervisors in the 5th District, which is covers it's the largest geographic district from Claremont through the San Gabriel Valley, Burbank-Glendale, and then up in the Santa Clarita Valley and the Antelope Valley. So it's a very large area with reapportionment sort of yielding a different kind of makeup of the district. It fits me better, and so the issues that I care about and that I've been representing on for the last 30-plus years, I think they will line up very well with the this new constituency.
So you may end up, surpassing your father in terms of the amount of time you serve in office.
It is a possibility.
We'll cross that. But that's Catherine Barger's district.
Correct. That's correct.
Is she termed out, or are you taking?
She's not termed out. This would be her last term.
So you're challenging.
I'm challenging
for a not open seat.
Correct. It is as a progressive Democrat and a Republican representative in a district that is, and she's a good person, don't get me wrong, but there are issues that I think you have to wake up in the morning with sensitivity to and go after with real gusto, and that's the kind of energy that I want to bring to this opportunity.
Yeah, I've heard lots of people say that Catherine Barger is a great person that people that work with her, but she is the most conservative member of the LA County Board of Supervisors, and it's as you point out, a fairly conservative district.
Well, it was. Now it's a very progressive district.
Really?
As reapportionment has made it a 46% Democratic registered district versus 24 Republican, 23 declined states. So it's Joe Biden won the district by 24 points the last time out. So it is one where there's needs that people are looking to be filled that have more of a aggressive urgency behind addressing that they need representation on, and that's what I like to bring.
So what is your strategy, and what do you hope to accomplish should you join the LA County Board of Supervisors?
Well, my strategy is essentially to make my way through this district, to introduce to some who don't know me and reconnect with those who do my record of accomplishments. I think what I'm running to try to make change on are the things that I've been able to do at various levels of government. So whether it's on the city council and being an advocate for bringing forth a health clinic to the northwest part of Pasadena, we created a nonprofit. The nonprofit, 20-some-odd years later, is still running it, so it's been very successful. It's Community Health Alliance Partnership, and this was before Obamacare. It's meeting the needs of the people. When they say that there's a need, we try to find ways to fill them. Underserved, insured, and non-insured, we were trying to address their needs. Transportation, development, bringing affordable housing and jobs to the area, and that's what we're looking to do in this new role as well.
This is going to be an interesting race. I will have my popcorn ready.
Very good.
One of the things we talk about a lot on this show is the Pasadena Police Department, considering that we're not in Pasadena, but we are covering Southern California. We are covering the whole nation when it comes to policing issues. They seem to have a lot of trouble, especially when it comes to the fair policing of black folks, right?
Yeah.
And they seem to go through a new police chief every 10 minutes. What can be done? What do you think you could do in your current role, or what are you doing in your current role to help? I mean, it seems to me, and this is just my opinion, that they should be under a consent decree.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that they took a bold step on was creating a citizens commission to give oversight, to give greater accountability and transparency to allow the public to be a part of how some of the policy making is being done within the police department, and to give an opportunity to have a role in some types of a review of officer-involved activities that have, that are come under question and concern from the public. So transparency and connectivity from the public in that process, that was a very important step, which I wasn't ever sure would ever happen in Pasadena, but it did. And I think that because there's a growing urgency amongst activists and community at large that are basically tying in and seeing. I mean, after the George Floyd incident, there has been a lot more recognition from those who would try to say everything was fine, that things aren't always fine. I think Pasadena has tried very hard and has had some good police chiefs over the years. And when I was on the council, that worked hard to try to make sure that they were building bridges within the community. African Americans who were police chief, I believe the current chief is African American as well. But I do think that some of the laws that I've been able to put forward, duty to intervene, creating standards and policies in which officers would would know when to intervene and to do so when a member of the public is being subjected to great bodily harm or injury. And I think those are the types of things that I think are very important that apply to all departments within this state. Be it the law that says that you have to, as an officer, you have to state the reason why you're stopping a pedestrian or a motorist. That was the law that we put forth. And so these are the types of things that, at least in the legislative scene, that we can make happen across this entire state. Within the various departments, we need to make sure that there is continued change and that if the city council and communities are working together, I think at least at this stage it would appear that with this commission, they're moving at least in the right direction in that regard.
Of course, the race is on to fill your seat.
Yes.
On the Assembly.
Yes.
And you have endorsed your former staffer,
Falante Riddle, yeah.
Falante Riddle, right. Mm-hmm. But some activists have come to me with concerns that she formerly worked for the Pasadena Police Department and defended the shooting of Kendrick McDade. And for that reason, they're actually organizing really actively to prevent her from winning this race. How do you talk to me about why you would endorse her given that history?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think that she's been a trailblazer. African-American woman in the police department who elevated to lieutenant. She was going against an infrastructure that was not designed to see her promote. And not only that, to even be a member of the police department. But that was her calling. We want good people to be part of law enforcement. She's one. She's shown 30 years of commitment. She's worked hard within community. She went to school in the community. And in terms of what role she may have played in terms of as an adjunct to the chief at the time that
Kendrick McDade, for those not familiar, a teenager who was killed by the Pasadena Police Department in a very problematic shooting.
Correct. That doesn't necessarily mean that internally that there is an agreement with any of that. There's process in making sure that one can get to the bottom of the things that need to be exposed and be in this transparency. Videotape on the video cam. You know, we have state laws now that require that to be released, and to make sure that that's released in a timely way.
They got to turn on their cameras, something Pasadena Police Department officers don't like to do.
Well, I think that that's part of the challenge that all departments, most departments might find themselves.
Right, and then another law we need is something to stop them from just releasing an edited version that tells their side of the story and not releasing the full version. I mean, not that that is necessarily Falante's job at this point.
Right.
But I mean, some would hesitate to even a good cop elect them to follow in a progressive lawmaker like yourself's shoes.
Yeah, no, and I think that it's really, and I appreciate the question because she is someone who I know has had a history of going in and making change from within. I've always told law enforcement, I said, I'm writing laws to try to police you to make sure that you're it's building trust with the community. And I would appreciate it if you come up with some from change. You know, because every time we come up with change, you fight the change. But if we can see that you're trying to understand that change needs to happen, then that makes it at least apparent to all of us that there's an ability and a willingness to say we're going to weed out those who are the bad apples, and we're going to try to create a system and a process that's fair, and that we're hiring people that come into our department that are going to be about the community. And I think that's the role that she was able to play in the 30 years she was there by writing policies to help move the department in the right direction. And that's not always easy when you're trying to make the change from the inside and you're one of few that's prepared to do that. That's her story. Those are the types of things that I think this campaign she'll have an opportunity to talk about, and talk about the change that she was able to make when no one else was really there to help her make that change.
Talking with Assemblyman Chris Holden. He may be the son of Nate, but he's not Nate. And I want to talk to you. I just got back from South Africa. So when we come forward, let's talk about the Mandela Bill. That's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here for KBLA Talk 1580. We're live in Los Angeles at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. And I'm speaking to some of the attendees today to see why it was so important for them to be here.
Yeah, this is Lakey and Tyler. Main reason that's very important for me to be here is just to leave a legacy for my kids. Black wealth, generational wealth is what we need in our community, you know. Chase, someone has to take the lead. They're showing, big business like Chase cares, and they're putting their money where their mouth is at. So it's good to see, big institution like Chase, giving a lifted hand, to the community, and you got to respect that. It makes me want to bank with Chase, and give them, another look if I go to another institution. I actually see what Chase is doing for the community.
That's right, Chase is doing their part to help advance Black wealth. For more money support, tune in every day from 12 to 2 to KBLA Talk 1580's Midday Money Chain, right here.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time-to-talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Are you looking to steer your career in a new direction? Driving for the Culver City Bus can be your ticket to a long-lasting career with excellent benefits and paid training. Culver City Bus is looking for customer service and safety-minded bus operators to join the growing team. Culver City Bus offers on-the-job paid training, uniform allowance, and health benefits. Culver City Bus are now even putting their money in your pocket with a one-time $2,500 sign-on bonus. Let us connect you with an essential service job. If you enjoy driving, seek real opportunities for career advancement, and passionate about making a difference in your community, then we invite you to join the team. Start your journey by submitting an application at culvercity.org/job. For more information, visit culvercitybus.com or call the live customer service operator at 310-253-6500. Again, 350-253-6500.
Extreme heat can make you very sick and can be deadly. For Californians 65 and over, it's important to have a plan. Ask your healthcare provider if your medications affect your ability to cool down. Know the signs of heat illness and stroke, as well as the location of your nearest cooling center or air-conditioned space. And if you have loved ones over 65, be sure to check in on them on hot days. Learn how to stay safer from extreme heat at heatreadyca.com. Brought to you by the state of California.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Talking with Assemblymember Chris Holden. I don't know if I should take a picture with you. I usually take a picture with our guests, but you're 6'8", right?
Yes.
I'm going to look like a...
I can stay seated.
Yeah, let's do... No, I'm just kidding. I'm 5'2", so there's going to be a huge gap, is all I'm saying. Yeah. And I can't believe I called you Nate, because I have had people call me Diane DePrima, which is my mom's name. She's a poet. Yes. At least he didn't name you Ned or Nathaniel, right?
This is true. Nate Jr.
Nate Jr. Talking with Chris Holden. Okay, so I just got back from South Africa. We went to Robben Island and really learned the stories of how these folks were treated in prison, where Mandela spent, I think, 13 of his 27 years at Robben Island. Yeah. Talk to me about your Mandela bill.
One of the things that we believe needs to be reformed is the way solitary confinement is handled here in the state of California. When we see so many that are finding themselves in solitary confinement for endless periods of time, for years, we have folks who've testified on behalf of this bill that said, look, we've been put in solitary confinement for 10, 15 years or more. And given the size of those cells and given the fact that they have limited time outside of the cell, it doesn't line up with international standards in terms of how a person should be treated. And so the standard, the world standard is called under the Mandela Act, where you're not in solitary confinement for any more than 15 consecutive days. And over a period of time, no more than 40 days and a 180-day period of time. And you're out of the cell for more time to engage and to move around and to have interaction with other people. Being locked in a cell the size of a king-size mattress for endless times throughout the day where it may be that you're 23 out of 24 hours of the day, it affects the psyche. And by putting a person in that kind of a situation for months, if not years, is akin to torture. And our goal is
torture. I mean, I feel that it's torture.
It's totally torture. And our goal is to make sure that we move in a direction, because California is so progressive in so many different ways. We're in the death penalty. We're trying new and reformative ways of engaging with those inmates to prepare them when they go out and reconnect in the world, that they are not in a position to recidivate. But in this particular space, there is still, we're behind so many other states in the United States that are moving in a more fair and an appropriate way to address prisoners who are in those situations. And we just think that this bill, this is the second time we're moving it forward. The governor said the time is right for certain change. He's looked to the Department of Community Corrections to make recommendations. We think that's fine, but the same department was under a court decree to make changes back in 2015, and they've been very slow to make those changes. And as a result of that, we wanted to have something that was going to sort of stimulate and move us more aggressively to create fair standards and have those mirror the Mandela Act, that is the international standard that we believe California can at least meet.
I mean, yeah, that to me that sounds like a baseline. I'm talking with Assemblymember Chris Holden. I want to talk about, when we come forward, before we pass the mic to Tavis Smiley, how we can support that act and what else you want to leave us with this morning. I know you probably have a long list, but just for today, what are our marching orders? KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah. The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA stands with you in fighting for the rights of black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars, working collectively to improve the position of the black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, and they prepare black workers for employment in high-wage, career-track jobs. The Black Workers Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing around anti-discrimination, learn about union apprenticeship programs, or sign on to a trade registry, please visit www.lablackworkerscenter.org. That's lablackworkerscenter.org. Together, we can beat the black jobs crisis. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
Talking with Assemblyman Chris Holden. The Mandela Bill sounds like would bring California into compliance with international standards around solitary confinement. Doesn't eliminate it. What else do you want us to know, and how can we help you accomplish this goal?
Well, this bill is now in Senate Appropriations Committee, so our goal is to get it out of the committee and then moving forward to the floor of the Senate. I think that certainly reaching out to the chair of Appropriations through phone calls or letters would be helpful. Also calling into the governor's office to share the support behind the bill and what it's trying to do. And I said it has amazing support, and we're getting a lot of buy-in from other parts of the country as well. So it's a really important time to weigh in, and hope your listeners will be able to.
Who's the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee?
Anthony Portantino.
Anthony Portantino. Okay, Anthony Portantino about to get some phone calls from the KBLA delegation. What else would you like to leave us with, Assemblymember Chris Holden?
Well, I really am looking forward to finishing strong, moving these bills that are very important. We've got one on student athletes that we think is going to be very important to move forward to make sure that the student athletes who put so much on the line to play sports for these Division I teams that are making billions of dollars, these universities and an NC2A, and they get paid nothing. A scholarship is good, but it's now time to pay the student athletes. And so that bill is moving as well, and we're very hopeful for other reforms on labor front, making sure that workers who are having wage theft and other issues happening to them, those all move, and they will continue to work really hard to get elected to the LA County Board of Supervisors.
Awesome. And you're a basketball player, former basketball player.
Yes.
Who's your team?
My pro team is the Lakers.
Yes!
Yes.
Miles, we're going to vote for him. He's a Laker fan. I'm just kidding. The most important question of the day.
And my college team was in the NC2A finals, San Diego State. So we're very proud of them.
Okay, San Diego State, go California.
There you go.
Assemblymember Chris Holden, it's a pleasure to talk with you, and look forward to talking with you again soon.
Dominic, it's a pleasure. It's mine.
You know the deal. Tavis Smiley is up next. He has got the mayor of Montgomery, Alabama, to talk about that brawl and what is next. I know y'all don't want to miss that. I know I will not be missing that. And we've got a great show for you tomorrow, so make sure you join me then. History is now, and we are making it together. I'm Dominique DePrima. Until tomorrow, stay engaged, be well, stay hydrated. One love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mark Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Biden administration is set to outline plans to prohibit some investments in Chinese technology. The goal is to keep U.S. money from bolstering China's military and other threats to national security. An executive order from President Biden could be issued before the end of the day and could target tech like semiconductors and